Hey, welcome back to Big Riff Energy. This is episode 12. It is Friday, April 7th. Tickets for our tour with Midnight and Spider are on sale and moving fast. Spiritadrift.com. Get your tickets before they're gone. Here's the dates on the screen. If you can't see the screen and you're just listening, spiritadrift.com. You'll see them there. I'm excited to get back on the road. Been playing guitar, practicing a lot. We are playing 2 brand new songs on this tour. Never been played before, never been heard by anybody outside of the band, and they will not have been released by the time the tour happens. So come to a show and you will be one of the first people on earth to hear 2 new Spirit Adrift songs. You know, I was looking at the itinerary and I think Chelsea's live in Baton Rouge. That'll be the first time I've ever come back to the same venue 3 tours in a row. Not just the same town, same exact venue. That place rules, by the way. What a great venue. No wonder people want to go play there. But yeah, if you saw us there with Crowbar or saw us there with Corrosion Conformity, don't worry, we are playing a totally different set with 2 brand new songs, new merch, going to be a brand new experience. And we look forward to seeing y'all on the road. Speaking of touring, I went and saw this monster lineup on Monday at the Mohawk in Austin. Again, for those of you just listening, I'm talking about Creeping Death, Sacred Reich, Municipal Waste, and Carcass. AGI just knocking it out of the park with this one. So I want to talk a little bit about that show. It turned out to be one of my favorite shows I've ever seen. I highly recommend going and seeing that package if it comes near you. And this show had a really unique and special significance to me. I realized after I sort of unpacked the night's experiences and feelings. So I'm going to talk about seeing that show at the Mohawk and feeling the real like Texas metal vibes and the community and the friendship and metal family kind of vibes. Sounds corny, but it was real. And I'm going to sort of parlay that into talking about Texas and living in Texas and what that's been like and how I feel about it now. I've mentioned it before. Moved here in March of 2020. And I had a perfectly crafted plan in my mind of exactly how the whole thing was going to go down. It was foolproof. It was aspects of it were extremely risky and not guaranteed. But I knew if A happened, which led to B and B happened, that we were going to move down here and it was going to be perfect and smooth and seamless and everything was going to be great. We were going to go see Power Trip in March of 2020, and I think that was at the Mohawk. And I looked at that as like, okay, we moved down here March 1st. Took really 2 days to be totally moved in. Crushed it there. My wife had gotten a new job down here. That part was pretty iffy for a while. We kind of set things into motion in a way where we were putting the cart before the horse, but you know, you gotta dive into the deep end sometimes, and that's what we did. That part of it worked out. We went to a wedding in the Northwest, and then when we got back from that, we were gonna go see Power Trip at the Mohawk, and it was gonna be like, man, see all my Austin friends. See the Power Trip guys again. Hadn't seen them in a while. I'm going to get to introduce my wife to all these people that she's only heard me talk about. Boom. We're going to fully seamlessly integrate down here and it's going to be great. We're going to be hanging out, going to shows. I'm going to be all up in the Austin music scene, and that didn't happen. You know, there's an old saying, I think it's an old Jewish saying, man plans and God laughs. And that is what happened. All these perfect plans and logistics and A, B, C, D things that I had planned out didn't happen, fell apart, completely fell apart. And the last 3 years turned out to be an experience that I did not want and did not expect. But I think in the long run, certain things happened that are better than what my plan was. Obviously, a lot of things happened that were way, way worse than what my plan was. People dying, all of that. The world shutting down. Awful. But by having patience and faith that things were eventually going to work out, I look at it now and I think certain aspects of my life are better now than what I had planned. Wasn't easy by any means. But anyway, that big homecoming show in March of 2020 never happened. And I've had little tastes of what I was hoping for with that. You know, I think one of the first shows post-COVID lockdown was High on Fire at the motocross track. What was it? Greenbeard, Duel, and High on Fire. But things were still really unknown and frightening at that time, intense. And as much as some people would like to think that everybody there was really letting loose and stuff, I don't think so. It was still weird, really weird. I think things are going to be weird forever, for the rest of our lives, you know. But they were really weird at that High on Fire show. So I realized Monday, like 3/4 of the way through the show, you know, I got to the venue, saw my friend Greg, who I see all over the place, great guy, hollered at the Creeping Death folks. I've lived here for 3 years, and that's the first time I've really like properly met any of them, which is like, that took way too long. And it is awesome to see a band killing it, and the people in the band are super nice and full of love and joy and in love with music and just really friendly and positive and no egos. And I love when that happens. And that's how it was. You know, watched a majority of Carcass's set with Reese side stage, and just the love of the music was palpable. And the friendship and the atmosphere, it was just incredible from start to finish. So yeah, ran into Greg, ran into those guys, saw the Municipal Waste guys. Been knowing them a while now. The best guys in the biz, you know, one of the best metal bands ever and some of the nicest guys ever. The main reason I went out Monday night was to see my friend Michael, who I hadn't seen in quite some time. Michael is the first guy I ever met that had the title of tour manager. All the touring I had done, it was all so unprofessional. I had never toured around anybody that was referred to as a tour manager. And this dude, Michael, he's the first guy I met with that title. And my kind of guy. Lost touch with him, hadn't seen him in a while. The way so many of these touring relationships works, I've mentioned it before, is you might not talk to or see somebody for a year or more. And then you see them and your relationship is exactly where you left off. And the love and the camaraderie is still just 100% there. So I saw my friend Michael shortly after I got there, caught up with him a little bit, watched Sacred Reich. That's the first time I ever saw him. So Joey, the rhythm guitar player for Sacred Reich, my old band in Phoenix and his old band in Phoenix, Warhead, shared a practice building. And I want to say he was like 15 or 16 years old at the time, playing drums for a thrash band and killing it on the drums. And it's so cool to see that he hasn't let off the gas at all. And now he's playing rhythm guitar for Sacred Reich, killing it. Amazing. I love seeing stuff like that. And man, the whole night was just connections like that. Running into people. I mean, the second I walked in the actual venue, running into friends and fans and people that I've only talked to on social media that live by me. My buddy Jason from Left to Rot. it was just cool, man. I felt like I finally got the full blown like Texas family type homecoming that I've been waiting for 3 years. And I was just overcome with gratitude that we all made it through all this shit that's been going on, and we're still making it through all this shit that's been going on. Phil from Sacred Reich, you know, he's a Buddhist. He was talking on stage, introducing one of their songs, talking about like, we're here for music, man, the love of music. And it doesn't care who you are, what religion you are, what color you are, what race you are, anything. It's for all of us. And it's what binds us together. This love of music and this passion for music. And we're so lucky. We get to have an extra family because of music and because of metal and hardcore and that extreme kinds of music. The fan base and the familial element is even more palpable than any other style of music. We're just diehard about it and diehard about supporting each other and having a good time. And as a death metal, thrash metal show, I've never seen so many happy people in one place, man. It was just joy, pure joy. Seeing complete shit-eating grins from Jeff and Bill from Carcass. You know, one of the most brutal bands ever, but a fun band. And that was the vibe, man. I realized, I told Dave Whitty after Municipal Waste set, the first time I saw Municipal Waste, and this hurts my heart. If you're young, it's going to happen to you one day. And I want you to remember this. It's a revelation. The first time I saw them was 17 years ago. Ugh. I'm one of those guys. I saw them almost to the day, 17 years ago, St. Patrick's Day. Yeah, so, man, even longer. 2006, Oklahoma City. And I've seen them a bunch since then. They're one of the best thrash bands ever. I would put them in the top 5, maybe. And that's weird for me to say. You know, Hazardous Mutation came out when I was, 15, 16. I had already been listening to thrash metal by then. And so from my perspective, it's odd to think about the fact that younger folks don't see much of a difference between a band like Municipal Waste and a band like Slayer or Megadeth. And yeah, they've been around for 20 years. 20 years. And they've been putting out unadulterated thrash metal the whole time, without really any significant lulls in quality or aggression or passion. And that's 2 or 3 times longer than some of the most legendary thrash metal bands stayed true to that kind of music. So you got to put Municipal Waste in the top 5 thrash bands ever, I think. They'd be in my top 5 for sure. And I've seen them a bunch in the past 17 years. Monday Night might have been my favorite set that I've ever seen them play. They were on fire. You know, I love Hazardous Mutation. The music that you hear when you're 12 to 18 is probably going to be your favorite music for the rest of your life. And that record came out right in the middle of that period of my life. So it's almost impossible to look at the rest of their catalog objectively. But I will say their last record, Electrified Brain, is at least as good to me as Hazardous Mutation. And honestly, it has some elements that are even better. The 2 guitars, Nick and Ryan together is like, it's one of those combos that's like unfair. Timeless guitar duo, you know? I love those guys. Tony was killing it with the banter. They played the song Wave of Death, and he was like, this might be the stupidest thing I've ever said, but I want to see as many people crowd surfing as possible. If you've seen Municipal Waste, you know he doesn't have to say that, but he did. And it was just mayhem. But no one was tripping. Everybody was grinning ear to ear almost the whole night. Incredible. They crowd surfed a guy. If you've been to Mohawk, it's like an outdoor stage. Part of it's covered on the first floor, right? It's got like 3 tiers. I was at merch, Carcass's merch, like, so by the front door. And I watched them crowd surf a guy off the stage all the way out the front door. And it became like a team effort to make sure that this dude made it all the way back. Amazing. Amazing. Bodies flying, beers flying through the air. Nobody tripping, everybody having a good time. One of the best Municipal Waste sets I've ever seen. And like I said, the main reason I went was to see my friend Michael, who I hadn't seen in a while. Who, as it turns out, you know, you don't know what people went through during the trials and tribulations of the past 3 years, which made seeing him all that much sweeter. Municipal Waste got done, and I went and tracked him down. He was running around. Said, "Hey man, I just want to say bye now in case I don't see you after the show, because I got my dogs are at home, wife's out of town, whatever." And for those of you that know Michael, you know the amount of shit that he was giving me in that moment. He's my favorite kind of person, man. Just a dick, and in the best possible way. He just wouldn't let me leave. He was not about to let me leave. And he said, "You know, you're a Carcass fan, right?" I said, "Yeah." I'd seen Carcass a few times at this point. He said, "Dude, you can't leave. Like, you have to see this set. They're playing a lot of old stuff." And so I stayed, and I had the just honor and pleasure of getting to stand 10 feet from Bill Steer. Hey girl, you hear my dog shaking in the background. Pouring down rain also. So I'm 10 feet from Bill Steer the whole set. And there's nothing in between my senses and his presence as a dude and as a king of cool vibes and a warrior of swagger and just one of the most badass guitarists, period. Easily the coolest death metal guitarist ever. I go back and forth, favorite death metal guitarist between like him and Trey from Morbid Angel and Chuck from Death, James Murphy. I love Rob Barrett. I think Rob Barrett's the most underrated death metal guitarist ever. Easily. Bill Steer's the coolest, man. Nothing against any of those other guys. Bill is the coolest. And I can get into that more when I talk about Heartwork, this record behind me. But I am so glad Michael didn't let me leave, because they played everything that I would want to hear. Heartwork's my favorite record. Necroticism's my second favorite. They were leaning heavy on that stuff. They played even some older stuff than that. I'm not as fond of... I got nothing to prove, man. I like Heartwork. I don't care. I don't care what's more extreme or which back patch makes you look cooler or whatever. Like, Heartwork's the best Carcass record. We all know that. Necroticism, I would hear an argument for that one. So they played a lot of stuff from those records. They were having fun, man, in like an old school way. They were, you know, Tom Draper, who plays guitar for Spirit Adrift, he's told me that they're really into like not taking a break between songs. Tom was in Carcass for a while, which is like a total mindfuck to me. I'm so psyched that I get to be in a band with Tom Draper. Amazing. Tom, you're one of the best guitar players on earth, man. And it's just so cool to be in a band with you. But anyway, Tom has told me that they will like intentionally try to throw each other off and keep each other on their toes, going from song to song with no breaks, not talking about how they're going to get from the end of one song to the beginning of the other song. And I got to see all that like up close and personal, and it was so much fun. Intentionally, you know, throwing each other off like in the best possible way, making it exciting for them. And Worst case scenario, you're going to have a train wreck just for a second, but you're all pros and you're going to recover. And that's the kind of stuff that creates this visceral excitement. You know, you watch old footage of Waylon Jennings or James Brown. When you have mastered this whole playing music thing, that's the kind of stuff you have to do to make it interesting for yourself. Waylon was hilarious on stage, intentionally trying to make his band screw up a song and then turn around and like smirking at everybody. And you watch it go off the rails and come right back on the rails. I loved it, man. I got to say, I think that was the best death metal set I've ever seen. Carcass at the Mohawk on Monday. The music was incredible. The energy was incredible. I've never seen a death metal band so full of joy on stage. And it was just old school rock and roll, man. And that's what makes that band stand out above the herd. I've seen Cannibal Corpse put on some truly magical death metal performances, so I don't want to take anything away from them. But, man, I would say those are the two best death metal bands in the world, Carcass and Cannibal Corpse, right now, for my money, which is crazy because they've been two of the best death metal bands for as long as I've been alive, pretty much. Inspiring, totally inspiring stuff. So Monday was the Texas homecoming I've been waiting on for 3 years, man. Just, I want to say thanks and give my love and respect to anybody that came up and said something nice to me about the music I make or this or that or whatever. You don't know how much that means, man. I've been waiting for 3 years to really feel that release with a family of heavy music lovers. And Monday was it, man. Like I said, I've hit some other cool shows in my 3 years here, but God, I just feel totally at home in Texas now. And I just love this stuff. I love this stuff. Brings us together. Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about living in Texas. It is pouring rain right now. I'm looking at a couple of trees that have been struck by lightning, not today, but in the past. It's wild. You know, I wanted to get back to small town, sort of countrified life. That's how I grew up. I'm not a city dude. I love being able to go to the city for stuff like a Carcass show, but I want solitude, and I want, like, it's Hetfield talked about it, you know, back in the year and a half with Metallica documentary, and he talked about that Leonard Skinner song, Don't Ask Me No Questions, right? If you want to talk fishing, I guess that's okay. And so many of us dudes in bands, like, that's what you want to get to, is like a fortress of solitude where you're just normal. People don't know or don't give a shit about your band or what you're doing, have no idea what any of it is, and you can just have like a normal, peaceful, cool life. And we've got some nature out here. Got the dogs. We're not like super duper duper country, but man, it's definitely not the suburbs. It's not the suburbs. It's pretty wild. We get coyotes. One neighbor has been talking about a mountain lion. I'm not so sure I believe that. But then on the same token, you know, we only have a couple neighbors within screaming distance here. We got a really good relationship with our closest neighbors. And, you know, they were talking about seeing poisonous snakes everywhere and stuff like that. I see a lot of snakes, but I haven't seen any poisonous snakes since I've lived out here. And they kept saying they were seeing poisonous snakes. Okay, whatever. We'll keep an eye out. And the other night, their dog got bit by a copperhead. And she called me. I had to go running over there to snatch the other dog. The other dog's name is Ozzy. And had to grab him up. And she ran off with Ozzy's sister to try to save her life, you know, bit on the face by a poisonous snake. And we couldn't find the snake. Her neighbor's husband came home and snake was gone. That all worked out. The dog's fine, whatever. Then I'm walking my dogs on these trails. I'm carving out these trails on this little plot of land we have here, and heard a rattle, like a real loud rattle. And the dogs were ahead of me on the trail. I was going up this incline. I ran up there and got in between them and the snake, and I swear it was a rattlesnake. Like, I looked at it, I heard it rattle. It was coiled up. It looked like the Great Southern Trendkill artwork. And I had this little 38 on me, popped it out, boom. I'll be real, I unloaded this gun. I unloaded this gun on this snake because I don't, you know, what Dr. Dre say? It's my life or your life, and I ain't leaving. I like breathing. I feel that way about myself, the humans in my vicinity, and my dogs. If it's between them and a snake, that's no question. Pulled up the gun, got to shooting, blew this snake away. The dogs ran to the house. Fortunately, when they hear gunshots, they run straight back to the house. So then I'm like, bam, run up, let them in, go back down with some like clippers to try to pick this thing up, and I can't find it. And I'm like looking around, I see blood. I'm like, no way, dude. I shot this thing 5 times. So there's this like fallen tree that's kind of rotting out. There was a giant fire here in 2011, took the whole place out, and it's just now starting to grow back up. But there's a lot of like fallen, burned down trees and stuff. I stand up on this tree, try to get a better angle, and the tree like disintegrates under my feet. I eat shit in the leaves, and there's a snake nearby. It was a sight. And I finally found this snake, and it's not a rattlesnake, and I can't figure out what's going on because I heard it rattle. Anyway, get rid of that snake. Couple days later, there's going to be some images coming up, by the way. And if you're squeamish about giant, scary snakes with their heads blown off, I don't know, close your eyes or skip it or something. We're chilling. This is on Sunday, I guess. I get a call from the neighbor. She says, we need your services. There's a giant rattlesnake and we can't get out of our truck. And we don't have a gun. Our guns are inside. We don't have a key to the front door. And this thing is like not letting us in the garage. So I'm like, okay, whatever. I said, you know, here I come, right? Grab the piece. But in my mind, I'm thinking like, I don't know. I still haven't seen any poisonous snakes or whatever. I was skeptical. I was a little skeptical, but we went running over there. By the time we get there, they're out of the truck, and he's like, dude, this thing is giant. It stood up on me and rattled, and it stood and looked at me. I'm glad I didn't see that. But he's like, it's here. It's right behind this trash can, and it's this trash can is literally right next to their garage. And apparently this giant rattlesnake is behind the trash can. I go and look behind the trash can because I'm still whatever, a little skeptical. And they're like, dude, be careful, be careful, be careful. I get down and I make eye contact with this thing. And man, that looks a little different than the one I dealt with the other day. And it's shooting its tongue out at me and it's rattling. And yeah, that's a rattlesnake. What the hell are we going to do? I got a 38, but I'm like worried this round's going to ricochet off the foundation or I'm going to miss and it's going to bite me. So we get the garage open and it's posted up right there looking like the Great Southern Trendkill artwork. Neighbor runs in, comes out the front door. He's got a 22 rifle in one hand with rat shot and he hands me a 12 gauge. I'm like, what the hell am I supposed to do with this? So I kind of get behind him. He's got rat shot in this 22, which is basically just little pebbles in a shell, you know. He posts up, fires at this rattlesnake with this rat shot, hits it, but the rat shot doesn't do shit. And this thing busts out from behind the trash can pissed off, rattling, like rearing back, flying all over the place. The girls are like screaming. He's screaming at me to shoot it. His rifle's jammed. I got what I assume is 12 gauge buckshot in this thing. And there's a road right in front of me. Their trash cans right there. Their cars are right there. This snake is like making its way into the garage. The snake's as big as me. As big as me, dude. It's sighted in, man. I pumped the shotgun. I got it in my sights, but I'm like, I don't want to shoot and have this buckshot like ricochet, take somebody's eye out, blow his tire out. He's got this old school Toyota truck that I'm sure he loves. I'm like, I don't want to put holes in this thing. Their dogs are inside the house. I don't know where they're at. They might be like right by the front door or the garage door, you know, and they're screaming and yelling, and I'm dialed in. I've been watching a lot of Clint Eastwood movies, so I'm cool. And he just tells me, you know, 2-3 times to shoot it. Okay, I'll let it off, blow this thing's head clean off in their garage. He had an archery target right behind it, fortunately, which I think caught like any of the buckshot that went through this snake's head. Probably got caught in that. Nothing, dude, no windows of the vehicles got blown out. I didn't see any damage to the garage. Nobody got hurt. I'm like, how did that resolve itself so smoothly? I mean, it was chaos, but so I'm gonna put some pictures up here. If you don't like seeing giant, terrifying rattlesnakes or blood or exploded heads, go ahead and fast forward like 30 seconds. This thing was as big as me, man. And it had just eaten. It was a thick boy, dude. And I love animals, man. I don't love, I'm not going to lie and say I love snakes, but I try to avoid taking the life of anything. But again, you bite a dog on the face and threaten the life of someone's pet, of someone's family, I'll blow your fucking head off. That's what's up. So anyway, that's some Texas stuff. The other night we had a giant explosion go down that like shook people out of their beds. And everyone, you know, we were looking at the Nextdoor app or whatever. Everyone in the area thought a truck had run into their house. And we ran outside and everybody was out. Flashlights, you could see through the hills, just like people looking for stuff. And all our closest neighbors were out on the street, like ready to go to war. We thought maybe Russia was invading finally or something. They probably know better than that. I wouldn't touch down in Texas if you're going to invade the States. Yeah, probably don't want to start here. But again, man, it was a cool feeling of people looking out for each other. People wanting to make sure everybody was okay. And it took a long time for me to find that sort of Southern hospitality and Southern comfort vibe because of how screwed up everything's been. But yeah, between the show on Monday and between going to war with snakes and dealing with giant explosions or sonic booms or whatever it was, I finally feel that sense of comfort that I was looking for. And it feels like a home, you know, and it feels like, I don't think that you should get in anybody's business ever unless it's to help them. It should never be to make a judgment on them, make a criticism of them, or impose your will or your thoughts or your bullshit opinions or whatever on another person. You should never, like, my philosophy on life is you should only interact with somebody if it's to help them, treat them with love, support them, that sort of thing. And that's the vibe I feel out here. Nobody's up in each other's business. Nobody really has opinions on anything. If they do, they keep it to themselves. We're just here to get through this life together and help each other if we can. And it takes poisonous snakes and unexplained explosions for that to happen. the explosion thing's weird, man. The fire department allegedly is saying it was tannerite. There's no way it's tannerite stuff that rednecks shoot to blow up, to have fun when they're shooting guns and stuff. No way. We're talking people heard it like 20 miles away. People were knocked out of their beds and stuff. Like, we thought something had hit our house, but so did everybody else around here. Tannerite's not going to do that. So then the sheriff department's saying, oh, it was a sonic boom of an airplane, which makes a little bit more sense. I don't know what it was, but it was weird. But it did bring us together for this brief moment. And it felt nice to know that if some Last of Us type stuff pops off, or if somebody wants to show up in airplanes, Red Dawn style, fucking around, thinking they're going to be cute or whatever, they got another thing coming, because we got each other's backs here for sure. Feels good. In a time where we're being bombarded with fear and division, and this is your enemy, and this is what you're supposed to be scared of. These people bad, these people good. It feels nice to be in a real, tangible situation where none of that matters. And you just feel love and support and concern for your neighbor. That's what it feels like living here. That's what it felt like at the show. I love it, man. I'm going to be one of those people that's like proud to be a Texan. It ain't perfect. Obviously, there's a lot of horrific shit being done by our politicians, but I think that's happening in most places right now. And I don't know about you, but they don't represent me. And it doesn't seem like they represent real ass working class people who are just trying to live and survive and have a good life. And that's what we're trying to do down here. Okay, Carcass, Heartwork. Best Carcass album. One of the best death metal albums. It has songs. It's not just a bunch of riffs going into each other. It has melody. It is brutal when it needs to be, which when you're juxtaposing the brutality with melody, it makes it even more brutal. It has hooks. It has super catchy, dynamic vocals. Even though they're extreme, there's emotion in there. Even if the emotion is mostly disgust and anger, there are lots of varying shades of disgust and anger represented. Gets you excited. I remember going and seeing Dave Lombardo from Slayer do a drum clinic. And I talk about it a lot, and I think about it a lot. I think about it every other day, that he talked about how important it is to not just listen to the style of music that you're making. You need to have a wide palette of influences that you can incorporate. He talked about how everybody in Slayer loved Judas Priest. But if all they did was pull from that influence, they would have just sounded like Judas Priest. Nobody would have cared. But he said when you combined his Cuban upbringing and his love of Latin music and percussion, Jeff Hanneman's love of the ultra fast, aggressive, hardcore punk of the late 70s and early 80s, and then you take that mutual love of Merciful Fate and Judas Priest, but you start to introduce these more varied influences, then you get something special. Then you get Slayer. The reason that these older death metal bands are way better than the vast majority, sorry to say it, of newer death metal bands is because they weren't sitting around listening to only death metal all day. Bill Steer loves Merle Haggard. I know it seems like a stretch, but you can tell by listening to Heartwork. He loves old rock and roll. He loves proto metal, obscure 70s bands, bands that had attitude and swagger and humanity. I've talked to Paul from Cannibal Corpse a lot about how he just listens to Traffic, you know, loves the first Morbid Angel album, but just listens to Traffic, man. That's what makes a band special. If you're trying to be in a death metal band and you're sitting around listening to nothing but death metal, you're going to sound like whatever. Every other dime a dozen death metal band on the planet. You know, Morbid Angel sounds crazy because Trey, according to legend, would go out in the swamp every day on acid, listening to Van Halen and Jimi Hendrix. Henry from Floor told me this. And by the time Trey got a guitar, he could already play Jimi Hendrix and Van Halen. Obviously, that's a tall tale, but I would like to believe there's at least some element of truth there. It's too good a story not to be at least partially true. The reason Obituary kicks so much ass is because they love ZZ Top, Pat Travers, and Lynyrd Skynyrd, and Savatage. They weren't just sitting around listening to bands that sounded kind of like them. They also love Black Sabbath, you know? You have to like draw from stuff that really, really works. This is my opinion, man. I don't give a shit about like ultra brutal, monochromatic, guttural death metal for the sake of being extreme. Who cares? Like, if you have this constant arms race of who's going to be the most extreme, who's going to be the heaviest, it's just boring. You reach a point of diminishing returns where it's not heavy anymore. It's just boring. And no disrespect to like Sirius XM, Liquid Metal. I love Jose and Sean. Dude, how can you tell the difference between those bands? I can't. Every singer sounds the same. Zen is screaming. They all do the exact same techniques. All the production sounds the same. Oh, fuck. I'm starting to sound like Nergal, dude. Damn, what have I done? I do like a lot of new death metal bands. You know, I got to shout out Skeletal Remains too. We all know about the tragedy at the Morbid Angel show in Illinois. My heart goes out to everybody affected. I know people on that tour. Horrible, man. I went and saw that tour in Austin. I'm not, when I'm talking about like this point of diminishing returns, all of these bands sound the same. It's not all of them. Skeletal Remains is one of the best death metal bands, like, period. Not just newer death metal bands. And they draw from a lot of different influences. To me, they have all the best parts of Morbid Angel with none of the stuff that bugs me about Morbid Angel. All the best parts of Obituary, all the best parts of Death. They got a little bit of the Swedish thing going on. But again, it's groove and melody, hooks, variety in the vocal cadences, variety in the vocal pitch. But it's not that Zen is screaming like cookie cutter stuff. What a great band. I love them. I love Necrot. I love Outer Heaven. These are bands that pull from weird non-death metal and even non-metal influences. You know, my boy from Skeletal Remains was wearing a Wayland hoodie. It's like Dave Lombardo said. It's not just me saying it. It's Dave Lombardo saying it. So you know it's got to be true. You want to listen to as much music as you can. Pull from what works. And in the case of Heartwork, they're pulling from 70s blues rock, country, old school proto metal, and filtering that through the type of music that they're making, which is death metal. But it's got such a unique identity and a swagger and a groove, and one of the best records ever. Go see Carcass and Municipal Waste and Sacred Reich and Creeping Death if they come to your town. Go see us and Midnight and Spider when we come to your town. That's all I got for now. I'm going to disappear this upcoming week because I've just about had it. I'm just about to snap. So I'm gone. There won't be a new episode of this till like the next week after this upcoming week. And then I'll be on tour. So these are going to be spacing out a little bit. Hopefully that'll allow people time to catch up. And man, I'm looking forward to everything that's going on. Can't wait for this new record to come out. There's going to be new songs coming out. Can't wait to go back on tour and see more of my friends and feel more of this love and support from the greatest music-related community on Earth. Metal, punk, hardcore, extreme music fans, we're the best. We care the most. We buy the most physical music. We go to the most shows. We have each other's backs the most. And I love it. I can't wait to see more of y'all. Send me hate mail, fan mail, love letters, questions, concerns, comments, BIGRIFFENERGY@gmail.com. Thanks for listening. And again, thanks to everybody that said something at the show the other night. I love y'all, man. And I love Texas and I love metal. Hell yeah. See you next episode.